let's look at another example. So this is the Amadeus example, right? Because I showed you that Amadeus example, so I just wanted to sort of complete the loop. So make my trip web server getting data from Amadeus, right? So let me quickly show you the Amadeus example also, and I'll show you how it is slightly different. So so once you log in into developers.amadeus.com, which is what I did, I basically created my own account, right? And then basically they're saying that, okay, we have all these APIs, we have airport routes, airline routes, flight offers, search, flight offers, price, etc., etc. They have so many different APIs, right? And then they have this nice little section called API references and examples. So I went to API references and examples. Oh, I think I'm signed out. Let me sign in. Oh my God, we are already. I have to cover the analytics part also. खैर हो जाएगा, फाइट नहीं है, थोड़ा लंबा चलेगा. Okay, so I had clicked on that documentation and I ended up on this, right? So they're saying that this is the URL that you have to hit. You have to hit it using HTTPS. This is the final sort of URL that you need to do. And it says returns list of flights based on posted searching criteria, right? So let me just click on this and see what they're saying, right? So they're giving me all the different details. So they're saying that, okay, you can hit this URL, you can hit this final sort of thing. And then basically here is what you need to pass in the request, right? So in this case, for example, they are saying origin is Rio de Janeiro, and sorry, within Rio. So within Rio there is, okay, so they're giving two, they're saying within Rio and MAD, and then return flight also, right? So the origin and destination are Rio and MAD. MAD, I don't know what airport code this is. MAD. Oh, Madrid. Okay, fine. Sorry. Yeah. So they're saying if you want to find flights between Rio and Madrid, right? So this is what you can do. Their currency code, you can get the flight fare information, US dollar in INR, whatever, right? You can do stuff like that. And then one adult and one child, right? And then how many results, etc., etc. Do you want business? Do you want all segments, etc., etc., right? So I'll just quickly show you the example now, right? So सबसे पहले मैं क्या करूँगा? So here is where it gets a little tricky. I had hidden one small detail from you, which is not all URLs can be hit from the browser. So a lot of the URLs I've showed you were actually from the browser, but HTTP, sometimes you have to send sensitive information. And if you send it via the browser, it will be visible in the address bar, right? So ultimately, everything is an HTTP protocol, right? The web protocol. Just give me a sec. I'll just put my video off. So what HTTP does, when you have to pass sensitive information, you cannot hit it directly from the browser. There is a specific way of doing it. I'll just show you that information. Just one second. Right. So the way to do that is basically use an API client, right? So again, this is some new piece of information that I'm introducing. Unfortunately, can't avoid it. So basically what I meant to say was there are some ways where you can hit the URL directly, which is called an HTTP GET, but in some cases you cannot hit it because the information is visible in the address bar, right? And sensitive information cannot be sent in the address bar. So you have to do it in a different manner. So I'm just showing you one example. So I have this piece of software installed called Advanced REST Client. You just click on this. You can just go to Google and download it, right? So now I'll use the exact structure that this guy tells me, right? So test. So they're saying base URL is test API.amadeus, right? So I'll just copy it. Okay. right? Let me clear it. So it was URL के बगल में लिखा था post, so I'll just do post. Go back to the documentation. The URL said post. It said shopping base URL के बाद shopping/flight offers. So we'll just do that, shopping/flight offers, right? And it is clearly written post. So I'm going to use post in this. Okay. What did I do? Okay. Once. अभी तो वो दिख रहा था जेसन पेलोड, वो कहाँ गायब हो गया? हाँ, वही तो मैं सोच रहा हूँ. Now I will take this, right? So I wanted the flights between Rio de Janeiro and Madrid, right? So what I will do is I'll put it within the body.
डबल स्लैश है वहाँ पे, आपको वो हटाना पड़ेगा after the V2.
Sorry, what are you saying?
No, yeah, I'm saying that, like, after the V2 in the next window,
Yeah. So what I did was, this is the base URL until V2, and then the complete URL is /shopping/flight offers. So what I did was I put the base URL. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then after that I had to put shopping/flight offers, right? So that completes my URL. They are saying that the verb that you have to use is HTTP post. So within the method, I'm using HTTP post. Okay. So I have to go back to post. And then they are saying that within, when you are passing the information within the body, you have to give this information, this JSON, right? Like JSON can come in response, JSON can go in request also. So this request, like I showed you, is basically giving you flights between Rio and Madrid in US dollars, right? So I went to body and I just copy pasted that entire thing, right? And then basically what I'm trying to do here now is basically, I hope you can see it. I will do a send and see what happens. And what happened? It said 401 unauthorized. Why? Because I did not, like similar to the YouTube API where I had put in the API key, I did not bother to put in the authorization header, right? Like I showed you, every API has some authentication mechanisms, right? So I have to now put the API header here. So let's go back. So what does the error say? The error says you have not put in the HTTP header. So we'll go back to the headers tab, right? And then we have to start putting the header. So let's see what header we have to put. So header information, how will I get? So they have said you read our authorization guide, right? So let's read the authorization guide just quickly. So they're saying for getting the header, you have to post to this token, and then basically there you have to basically use client credentials, client ID, client secret, and then eventually in that you will get your access token, right? So I had already done that pehle hi, so that I could save some time. So let me show you that. I think this is the API, correct? Yes, V1 security auth token. So I had already done that. And now I have to do this, right? Grant type client credentials. So I'll do that. Once. Let me clear this. Making me confused now. Okay. Then basically parameters. So I have to first use content type. Oops, sorry. Okay. This is the only header that is required, right? And then yeah. So 3 parameters. One is grant type. Let me just type it down. So grant type is client credentials. I'll just copy it. Then I have another parameter called client ID. So I put the client ID and the value has to be the actual client ID, right? So I will copy my API key, which is what we did last time also. And then I will add another parameter, which is the last one, which is client secret, right? So go back, put client secret, and then client secret value is from my API secret, right? Okay, done. So we have done the exact same thing. We are now hitting the authorization URL, getting the access token. Once we have the access token, then we'll put it in the flight results wala URL, and then we'll do it, right? So now let's do a send. And it worked fine. You can see this time I got a 200 OK, and it sent me the access token back, right? This is the access token I needed. Without this access token, I cannot hit their API. So I'll quickly copy it, right, somewhere, and then go back to the original one that we were trying to do, which was shopping. Yeah. Okay. So in this case, we put all of this information, Rio to Madrid, right? This is already saved. The only thing they are saying now is, if I go back to documentation, sorry, they are saying that I think it's not here, somewhere here. They're telling you that when you are hitting your flight offer or some other URL, you have to add this authorization header, whose value is this bearer / space your unique string. So I will do exactly that. So I will add another header called authorization, which is the standard header, right? And in that, what I will do is bearer space the value that I just copied, right? The access token that we got. And if I have done this, right? So everything is set, right? My header has the authorization token that I just got using another API. And in the body, I'm sending Rio Madrid, everything, whatever I needed to send. So now hopefully if I do a send, what happened? Oh, yeah. So now when I did a send, now this time I did not get a 401 authorization forbidden. Now I actually got 200 OK, and I got all the different results that I needed to get, right? So now you can see. So it has sent me a bunch of itineraries, right? So this is exactly how MakeMyTrip is able to use GDS, right? It is telling me that agar Rio se fly karna hai, so within Rio there are different airports. So one of the airports is GIG, which is the ITA code for GIG airport. If you go to Google, you will be able to see. You will arrive at GRU. You will start at Terminal 2 at this time. You will arrive at GRU Terminal 2 at this time. the carrier code is LX. Let's look at what LX is. So the flight is clearly LX9701, right? So let's look at LX9701. What is LX9701? So you can see this is a flight that flies from GIG to GRU, Rio de Janeiro to Sao Paulo, right? The first leg from Rio, you are going to Sao Paulo, and then from Sao Paulo, you are going to Madrid. You're starting at 3:50. You are arriving at 5. This is basically Swiss Airlines flight, Swiss LX970. So this is what I am also getting back in my result, right? And then you are again starting from GRU and going to Zurich. And then from Zurich, you are probably going to Madrid, right? So yeah. And then from Zurich, you are going to Madrid, right? So this is one complete itinerary, right? And it is giving me a Swiss flight, right? So this is exactly the API that MakeMyTrip uses to basically get back all the flight results when it presents it to you on the UI, right? So empty flight engine is hitting the Amadeus flight engine, getting back these results. Then these results may be doing some additional information aggregation on top of it, and then eventually sending it back to the website or the app. And then app and the website is able to present the UI the way they want to, right? So this is how the entire API thing works. Clear? So this is the last example I wanted to show you. And the only small sort of caveat here was that you cannot hit this API directly from the browser. You have to use something like this software that I'm using, Advanced Disk Client or something like a Postman, to do it, because you are sending a lot of sensitive information, right? The stuff that you're sending here, right? So this should not show up in the URL parameters. Otherwise, someone can intercept and see what is happening, right? Which is why you have to use a post. And to be able to do a post, you need software like ARC, or there are other clients also like Postman, right? You can use that to basically hit these URLs and basically get back the response, right? So this is the kind of the overview of the tech side. I would like to close here, at least on the tech side, because we have a fair bit to cover on the analytics side also. Any questions, confusion, doubts?
Yeah, Anurag, I have a question. The question is, suppose this I understood that we are talking about MakeMyTrip and the API is already built. Now, suppose let's assume that I have my own software and you have your own software. Now we want to get connected with between each other. Then how that API is built?
For that, you need to learn coding. I cannot.
Okay, no, that's what. So that will be a coding, right? So which coding it will be? Like what? It's a language or any like how it will be on the Java platform?
It can be anywhere. It can be on Python. It can be on Java. It can be on it can be on Perl. Anywhere you can write it, right? There is a way to package. See, ultimately what you're doing is transporting data from one place to another. The way you do it can be done in any language. Python supports it, Ruby supports it, Java supports it. Even in the older times, Perl used to support it. You can do it in whatever language. The choice of tech stack is completely your own. You can decide whichever way you want to package it. But every time you package it, ultimately everything is getting transported over the internet, right? And that is using the standard HTTP protocol, right? So whatever you might be using behind the scenes, you might be using Java, you might be using Perl, you might be using Python. Ultimately, it will eventually become an exposed URL which someone can hit and get the data back. And that is how different, and that kind of touches upon a great point, that you might have one software written in Java and another software written in Python, and yet they are able to talk to each other because both are talking to each other over the internet, over HTTP.
So that is where this authentication codes will play a role, so that it is not exposed, right?
Correct. Yes.
Thanks.
This is how disparate software systems which have been written in completely different tech stacks are able to talk to each other. And the way to talk to each other is APIs. Because everyone is eventually able to expose their functionality over the internet. Someone else can use that functionality over the internet by calling that URL and getting back stuff, right? So one system can talk to another system, even if both are written in completely different ways. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Was this helpful? The tech part?
Yes, it's very helpful actually. Can relate actually.
Okay, fine. So I think I don't know. We'll have to go over time today because